What's going on, everybody? I am back from 2.5 weeks in Europe. The last time I did a Believe episode, it was the combined episode with Jeff, where we talked about our volume. But this next two episodes, I'm going to be talking about my European tour, which started in Spain, where I met this fine gentleman, Roberto Amorosi, the president of WNBF Spain, and also the man behind Escuela Culturismo Natural, which is a training course that has been doing great work for natural bodybuilding in Spain for over a decade. And he's built an incredible community in Spain promoting evidence-based practice in natural bodybuilding, promoting shows, educating people, and I've known him for over 5 years now, and we've been working together. So the start of my trip in Europe began with me landing in Valencia and taking a train 40 minutes outside to a really gorgeous but small village of Zativa, where I started out going to Avanza, which is a really good gym if you're ever in the area. They got a lot of cool equipment. And while Roberto was doing a hands-on workshop with a bunch of trainers, I snuck in an upper body session. And in this vlog, I'll be talking about how I trained on vacation, kind of combining my travel with a much-needed deload. And essentially what I did was I removed the exercises that gave me any kind of joint discomfort or pain, or I felt, quote-unquote, beat me up, dropped my volume a little bit, and then trained a little more instinctually, had fun. And then what I did do was actually I trained all of my sets really close to failure because I wasn't sure how often or when I'd get to train, so I wanted to increase the quality, or at least maintain a high quality, because I do a lot of failure training currently, and really just milk everything out of myself while also not putting too much strain on my joints. So I got an upper body workout. You can see I did like a drop set with partial reps all the way to failure on the lat pull down, and then here I'm doing a standing incline dumbbell curl, which is a great way to train the muscle in a similar way to a preacher curl, but while keeping the bicep from getting shortened by having it a little more in shoulder extension than flexion. So anyway, this was right after I landed on, I believe this was, yes, or just the day after I landed on Saturday, June 15th. And after they were done, we met up for dinner. We went to a pizza place, of all things, and I got looked at like I was an evil person for asking for half cheese on my pizza, and a vegetarian pizza at that. So I went to Spain and tried to get less cheese, and I didn't eat ham, and I nearly was killed by the people serving the pizza. But fortunately, I was around a whole bunch of other bodybuilders who understood and had my back. But it was just really great to see the awesome community that Roberto had set up. And this show that I was going to be a part of was on Sunday. So Sunday morning, I actually got in a workout. Avanza was closed that day, so I took a little bit longer walk to the public city gym, which I was really surprised with the kind of equipment they had, and I did a lower body session. I didn't do any RDLs while I was traveling. I opted instead for Smith Machine Good Mornings, which I find are a great way to get a similar stimulus, but they just don't seem to beat up my lower back as much. And I got a really kind of nice posterior chain dominant lower body session in. And this was all before the big show. And Roberto is an amazing showman, amazing organizer, very punctual. He's known for putting on fantastic events, which you'll see in a bit. The really cool thing they did was that the first half of the day, in the morning and afternoon, was a series of seminars, of which I was the last one up, which was live translated, and I gave a presentation on evidence-based ways to maximize muscle gain during a weight-gaining phase. And this was live translated into Spanish, which I thought was just really, really cool. I love being able to reach outside of the confines of my own language. So after that, the actual show started. And if you've ever been to southern Europe, Spain and Italy, it's really common to be eating dinner around like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., even midnight. So people stay up late. That's why they have siestas midday. So everything's a little bit back shifted. So I was able to get in this full lower body session before even getting into the day of the show. I showered, came home, and then I got prepared to do my speech, which ended around, I want to say, mid-afternoon, and then we got into the show, which ran so efficiently we actually got finished by 7 p.m. So it was a really well put on event, And it started with the seminar series. There was other great speakers. Of course, I wish I could have understood everything they said, but eventually it got to me, and we got to do the live translated speech, and it was really cool. It seemed to be well received as far as I could tell, and I discussed just the importance of maximizing the training stimulus as nutrition is truly permissive to your gains, and how you can't force feed gains after the novice phase, or you find as a natural athlete that you just put on a lot of body fat. So I had a great time. It was really cool. I got to present on the same stage as the athletes, and this is Pablo Perez. He's a WNBF pro. He's a great speaker. He's a coach, trainer, powerlifter, and him and Roberto gave me a mug, which was really cool, and also Roberto's book translated into English. And then they gave me the most important gift of all, and that is, of course, a selfie with the three of us in front of the crowd, which was really cool. It was just a really cool experience to be able to connect with people with the same passions, across the ocean, very far from New Zealand and also far from the U.S. And then I put on my WNBF Spain polo, and we got ready to judge. And I tell you what, Roberto is a showman, and I think this next video will speak for itself. So here you can see they've got a video screen on the back of the stage showing highlights from the prior year, light show. They've got smoke machines, and what you didn't know about Roberto, besides being a WNBF pro, besides being the president of WNBF Spain, he is also a musician. And to me, as someone who is a aficionado of the iron game, I love watching powerlifting, but I'll be honest, it's surprising to me how popular powerlifting is right now, given it's just watching people squat, bench, and deadlift. And I think there's so much potential for bodybuilding, which has always been so visual, to have these striking, shredded physiques, that I think if people put in the same kind of effort Roberto did, maybe we could get the same kind of, viewership. And anyway, so after he presented, after he started shredding, he brought out all the athletes. This is before the show has even started, and there's a massive pose down. And there were some incredible athletes in this show. Judging was by no means easy, and there were definitely some really worthy competitors who I think are going to do damage in the pro ranks internationally. There were some incredible female athletes in the figure class. You can see the guy right there. He ended up winning the bodybuilding overall. I think he will do damage in the pros. He did get his pro card. That is the bikini winner right next to him there. And there are also some really good men's physique competitors. For those who don't know, there's a ton of really good athletes that have come out of Spain. Nico Basval, who is the 2021 Men's Physique Pro World Champion. Another great example is Adria Albiol, the 2019 WNBF Pro Lightweight Bodybuilding World Champion. So these athletes, some who turned pro, are following in the footsteps of a lot of other great top talent coming out of WNBF Spain. So after this awesome day, I bid farewell to Roberto and his team, and I went back to Valencia to meet up with Dr. Pablo Jimenez. His hometown is Valencia, so he showed me around. He took me to get lunch and eating paella with none other than Danny Lennon of Sigma Nutrition Radio, my good friend who happens to live in Valencia. He also showed me around the central square. This is the Museum of Art and Science. And then the next day we went to Madrid to meet up with the rest of the ICEN team. That's the Instituto de Ciencias de Ejercicios y Nutriciones, which in English is the Institute of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences. And this is a great group of folks who are leading the way in the evidence-based space. They're communicating, they're educating, and they've partnered with UCAM. That's the Catholic University of Murcia out there in Spain, to actually create some online master's degrees in some cool topics. And they asked me to do a guest lecture specifically for their master's degree in ergogenic aids in sports nutrition. And we created this reel advertising it, where the guys are arguing about who's going to teach the class. I come in and I say, hey, can I teach the class? And then we state, hey, guess what? Come join us in this master's. I'm one of the guest lecturers. So anyway, the guys behind ICEN are Dr. Pablo Jimenez, Dr. Carlos Alex, Sergio Espinar, as well as Alejandro Monedero, who happens to also be the founder of Life Pro Nutrition, an evidence-based supplement company. And they have a lot of other really notable lecturers. So, for example, Sergio Martinez, who is in that video, he also is another WNBF pro. He's a WNBF physique pro, as well as Nico Basval, who I mentioned earlier. You might have recognized that name not only because Nico is the 2021 world champ, but he's also the lead author of the pretty well-known 2021 or 2022 meta-analysis on high-volume training's effect on hypertrophy. But Dr. Carlos Alex is also a WNBF pro. So this is a really cool marriage of the natural bodybuilding scene with the evidence-based community. We see that a bit in the States, but it's also quite strong in Spain. So the ICEN crew, their main facilities are in Madrid. And it's also the primary dry manufacturing warehouse and supplement creation facility for Life Pro Nutrition. So Life Pro Nutrition was founded by Alejandro Monedero. It's one of the folks I met. He's also behind ICEN. And he basically brought on the whole ICEN team to act as the formulators and the advisors to the supplement company that he has. And he's trying to create this really high-profile, successful, evidence-based supplement company, and he's been quite successful at it. They have 5 warehouse facilities. They have a dry manufacturing plant, a wet manufacturing plant, and the dry manufacturing plant with the warehouse in Madrid, where I went, is also where they do all the lecture recordings for the ICEN, where I got to record my guest lecture in their recording studio for their master's degree. And they also have this badass training facility where Alejandro trains and where the guys train. So it's a pretty fully kitted out gym in the offices. So I got to get a tour of the offices. I met all the staff behind Life Pro Nutrition and ICEN. We got a really good workout in after we recorded the guest lecture. And then we recorded a whole bunch of educational reels. And these are bilingual. So we had subtitles in English and Spanish. And each of the guys asked me some questions about common topics that people have questions about for both nutrition, supplementation, and training. And I just talked through the evidence, and those are going to get edited down and released on the ICEN Instagram, where we can not only introduce me as one of the guest lecturers for the master's degree, but also just to provide educational content to the community. So I kind of had to hustle through this workout in time so that we could make the appointment that we had to give me a tour of the Life Pro manufacturing facilities. So I went through leg press, seated leg curl, seated leg extension, abduction, and then I also did some shoulders and arm work. You saw I just did some cross-body lateral raises, which I love. Great stretch on the medial delt, or the middle deltoid, I should say. And then I also leaned back on this preacher curl machine to get a good supported arm stretch position, kind of like an incline curl, and I did a big drop set here, and then I also did some overhead tricep extension. So I got a really good workout in after getting a really good lecture in and also recording a whole bunch of reels and just hanging out with the guys. They had me try a whole bunch of different supplements. They gave me a big bag of various like protein powders and supplements. They gave me creatine, so they hooked me up for the whole rest of my European trip, which is really generous of them. They took me out to lunch, and we just got to connect over our mutual love of lifting and science. So it was a really cool experience, and it was just great to see such a good group of people leading the way both in the natural bodybuilding community, but as well as the evidence-based space. And just to see that it's so alive and well in the Spanish language world, and getting to be a part of that, and getting to bridge the gap between my own language barriers as only speaking English was just a really cool opportunity, and I just have to be so thankful to these guys. So anyway, after I got this massive pump, we had to get changed and then get ready for the tour of the supplement facility, which you'll see in a second. Now, I have never actually been to a manufacturing facility for a supplement company before, so I didn't know what goes into it. And I'll be honest, I have a relatively negative view of the supplement industry, primarily because of the data I've seen and what I've talked about and some of the issues with the states. The U.S. is probably one of the worst places, in my opinion, to buy a supplement because it has the least consumer protection. It has very high rates of contamination, adulteration, and pretty high rates of supplement claims not actually being met, and seeing that what's on the label is actually not what's in the product. And sometimes there's stuff that's not on the label that is in the product that you probably wouldn't want to consume. But in Europe, there's different laws. It's much more proactive in terms of the regulation. You can view that however you want, depending upon your economic and political lens. But the outcome of that is the consumer is far better protected, and that when you buy a supplement, it's going to much more likely have a high potency, purity, and only what is supposed to be in there. And on top of that kind of baseline regulation requirement, Life Pro Nutrition is doing a great job to actually really take it to the next level. Alejandro, who you can see here in the center with a cheeky ad placement with our picture together, he is very committed to producing high quality supplements that actually work. And that's why he hired the ICEN guys to be his quality control guys, the supplementation formulators, and to ensure that the ingredients they use are high potency, purity, and actually going to do something. So it was great meeting Pablo, who you can see here. Also Carlos. We hit a nice front double bicep. The guy's got great arms, just a really impressive athlete and scientist. That's Alejandro, who founded Life Pro Nutrition and then brought on all these young scientists to support him and make sure that the company's evidence-based. That's Sergio Espinar. He's been in the evidence-based space for more than a decade. He's in the middle of his PhD. This is Sergio Martinez, another WNBF pro, who's also one of their lecturers at ICEN. So after we worked out, took pictures, did the reels, I got the facility tour. So this is one of 5 different warehouses where they keep their products and they get their raw ingredients shipped. And then I had to get into the clean room clothes, switch from the dirty room, take off my rings and earrings, and they showed me how they make capsules, how they make powders, how they test for allergens, how they actually mix their raw ingredients locally there, how they make sample packs, the whole 9 yards. And I was incredibly impressed with just how much time, effort went into the whole process and how they really ensured a high quality product. And then it was off to Southampton. That was none other than Dr. Pak himself, the man behind the minimum dose method, which is not really a method, but he did his awesome PhD specifically on the minimum effective dose for powerlifters. If you're not following Dr. Pak, make sure you do so. He's got a great YouTube channel, and also read his research. I actually met him in 2018 in Finland at an academic conference where he was in the midst of his PhD still, and I helped him get in touch with a lot of the top powerlifters and powerlifting coaches in the IPF so he could do some really impactful qualitative interviews and surveys, which not only were informative on their own right, but also set the stage for determining what was the amount of progress that was meaningful in a short period of time, so he could use that to analyze the studies he did on the minimum effective dose for powerlifting. So he and his lovely wife Magda were so kind that they offered to host me between my trips to both Spain as well as Italy. And also after Italy, they hosted me before we both presented at the British Powerlifting Coaches Conference on June 30th. So I spent a total of 2.5 weeks in Europe. I started in Spain, then I went to Southampton, then I went to Italy, then I went back to Southampton, and then we drove up to London for the final presentation on June 30th. So I was there from June 15th, there being Europe, all the way to June 30th before I came back. And while I was in Southampton, I just got taken care of. I'm telling you, Greek hospitality. Big shout out to Dr. Pak. He is the man. Good friend of mine, great scientist, great science communicator. You will have seen him on Iron Culture. You should definitely follow him on Instagram. And he's done a lot of great contributions to our space, helping people understand the difference between the minimum effective dose, a meaningfully effective dose, what might be optimal, and where the best return on investment might be for your goals specifically, instead of kind of looking at it in 2 black and white terms of either optimal or don't do it at all. So anyway, he took me to the gym in Southampton multiple times and helped this vacationing pro bodybuilder get in all my workouts. So I got in an awesome session here. After getting in that shoulders, arms, and leg session in Spain, I wanted to get in a nice chest back with a little bit of shoulder work on for my next workout, which you can see I did here. I finished up with some cable crossovers to failure. And then next day we did a little bit of arms, but primarily lower body. And I kicked that off with, once again, Smith Machine Good Mornings, which I find are a great way when you're traveling to get a good stimulus, a good hinge, without necessarily needing to bring your belt and your straps and really kind of undergo the fatigue that I experienced from RDLs. So I did that. In addition, I did some leg pressing. Now, the only negative thing I have to say about this gym, because truly it's an amazing facility, is the leg press is not great. So instead of trying to get more of a quad stimulus and putting my feet low, I just said, you know what, let's make this a more glute dominant press, put my feet higher, and then just really focused on the hip extension component, really trying to push through my heels and not think about extending my knee. And I could tell you the next day I did have some pretty sore glutes and hams, so it was pretty effective. So I kind of made some lemonade here, and I think this is a useful variation for anyone who's trying to get a little more glutes out of their leg press. Of course, there is quads involved. There's no way for that not to happen, but definitely this is a good tool in the tool belt if you want a little more of a posterior dominant lower body session, which this absolutely was. As you can see here, I did some hip thrusts, focusing on the bottom portion of the movement, and then after that, I actually did some more leaned over abduction. Now, the most important thing after you get in a workout with your homie is you got to get in a pose down. So bodybuilding, if you want it to be a sport, you got to treat it like a sport. So it's not just something that you can do professionally or as an amateur and you have to actually have a stage. Just like you don't have to be in the NBA to play basketball, you can play a pickup game of basketball in any park, in any city, anywhere there's a hoop, anywhere you can get a ball. I think the same should be true of bodybuilding. So after this awesome workout, I did a pickup game of bodybuilding with Dr. Pak. And we had the Southampton championships of the locker room, and I was very pleased that the judges gave me that title win. It was a very close second place that Dr. Pak had, but I think we both acknowledged that we were worthy competitors to one another. So anyway, after I got a sick pump in my legs and a little bit in my arms, we did the pose down, and this would be one of many pickup games of bodybuilding that you're going to see. And by the way, this is only part 1 of a part 2 vlog where I'm going to go through the rest of my trip, taking you through my trip to Italy and my second trip to Southampton and the seminar that we did for British Powerlifting in London. But anyway, you're going to see all the training I did, how I managed that. I'll keep talking through all of these different workouts. Another downside of this gym is that it's actually more of a downside of my anthropometrics, but they do have seated leg curls at this gym. But unfortunately, they don't really fit in my body, so I had to do the lying hamstring curl. And I just focused on kind of the lengthened portion. I did some lengthened partials to make up for it. And then, of course, we finished with arms. Once I found out we were going to do a pickup game of bodybuilding, I wasn't going to get caught slipping. And I definitely did a good set of curls here to make sure that I had the appropriate pump. So anyway, I was able to have a home base that I operated from due to the generous hosting of Dr. Pak and his wife Magda. I was able to stay on track with my nutrition, and I was also able to see Southampton and get shown around after seeing Madrid, Valencia, and Zativa. And then most importantly, I was able to win a bodybuilding title on vacation. Now, the judges decided what they decided, but I'll let you be the judge here. In this most muscular, I think I got him on conditioning, but definitely he got me on width, and I would say it was a narrow win on that pose. And then I think from the ground up, I was able to bring a slightly better side chest. So it was a narrow victory. Now, next time when I come back, I'm going to show you the awesome trip I had to Italy with none other than Kristen Montevici and WNBF pro Annalisa Gerati. So tune in next time.